Oh my gosh, we're finally doing it. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Pure Cringe, where we dive into Bravo Liberty books and culture for your amusement and ours. Welcome to our very first episode, A Place of Yes by Bethenny Frankel. My name is Maria McQuaid, and I'm here with the fabulous Michelle Barczykowski. Hi, Michelle.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm Fab. How are you? Fabu.
I know you are. I know you are, but what am I?
You're also
I'm so
Fabu.
excited. Thank you, my friend. I'm so excited to be doing this with you. We've been friends for now, how many years? We were
High
what, 15?
school, 15.
Yep, I was in the back of the bus, probably smoking a butt,
We could smoke
and
on the bus as teenagers. Who the
we
fuck
were
lets you do that?
teenagers.
You can
You
ask me.
guys, Michelle and I, here's the great part about the Pure Cringe podcast. Welcome. We're going to get a Generation X perspective.
Yes.
Michelle and I, our personalities were distilled in the late 70s and 80s. And so we'll be bringing that unique perspective to Bravo Books, Bravo Liberty in general. And my hope is that in the near future, I can convince Michelle to do a rewatch of some early Bravo shows to just hit back with those nostalgic feels. So that is my plan. But I am super excited to jump into this book
Coercion
with
is
you, Michelle.
beginning. Okay. Yeah.
Yep. Peer pressure, peer pressure. All the cool kids are doing it.
Yep. Okay.
All right. So let's start talking about this. I don't know if you how familiar you are with Bethany. Like what do you know anything about her? Is she
Um,
one of your favorite housewives?
I know I like her Skinnygirl raspberry vinaigrette. It's very good. I have to say, give her credit. Although she doesn't own that company now, right? I think she sold it for $1 bajillion and she's
Yeah,
really
I mean,
to do it now.
Bethany's pretty amazing. I mean, she's so what is it? She began her career as like a nanny to Kyle. No, not to Kyle, to Paris and Nikki Hilton for
Beth
Kathy Hilton. Bethany
That
did. She
oh, I had
began her
no idea.
career.
Oh.
And then that's how she knows Kyle and she knows the Hiltons. So
So
she
was this
was
like
like
after
their,
college, she went out to LA and she had that stint in L okay, all right.
yeah, she literally wanted to get involved in like LA and, wanted to be an actress. And so
Mhm.
she began her career there. And then she became a natural food chef.
Yep.
Um,
Cookies. Did her cookies.
yeah, she did cookies. I mean, I think Bethany is like I think she's like the quintessential like Bravopreneur, if that's even a
Yes.
word, but like
Yes, she is.
she is the person who I think started it all in terms of not only selling products, but honestly, Michelle, and that's the reason why I wanted to do her first, writing books. This
Yeah.
isn't her first book,
The
but
many
she was the first. No, she's written so many books. She's even written a novel. But she's a fascinating person. And I have a real nostalgia for like early Bethany, like
Yep.
early Real Housewives of New York. And especially because I know the background of this book, I thought this would be an awesome place to start.
Yep. I agree with you. One of the reasons I think it's a great place to start, if you know the Bethany now, who's, brash and she's out and about and she's got her hysterical Instagram things where she, I spend all my money so you don't have to, where she does like all these crazy things
Those
that she
are
does with it.
great.
I love those, but one of the things I like is with this book is she's really vulnerable in this book. And you don't really see that. You just see this big personality now with a lot of money, but she's very humble.
I think she's
And
more guarded now. I think she's has more armor, and I think this is like the young, unvarnished
yeah,
Bethany, but before she was jaded by that horrible divorce,
yeah,
which
yeah,
which I think honestly changed her a lot. I think going through that, getting married, becoming a mom, and then doing that all of that super publicly, and then that just horrific divorce.
yeah.
Because I think they were only married for a few years, but they only got divorced in 2021.
Yeah, the divorce was like longer, like twice as long as the marriage, wasn't it?
Yep,
Too
yep.
bad. Yeah.
And it was pretty brutal. But this is young, fresh-faced Bethany. This is Bethany before glam, Bethany before she was a millionaire. This
Hmm.
was just a young, earnest person, I think, trying to share advice basically about her life. And so I like that it sort of started off with that like list of negative thoughts that like you may be thinking
Hmm.
about yourself or things that you may have done. And I like the idea that she talked about the book as upgrading the software that you have in your head.
Oh yes. That's a
I thought that was really cool. And it made sense to me. And, I could the visual learner in me. Um,
Yeah.
I liked the idea that even the title is about talking about saying yes to life. And when we dive a little bit deeper into the little clip from Rural Housewives of New York that we're going to recap later, I'll talk a little bit about the origin of the title because it does tie into that. But I loved that she had that first chapter where she just sort of gives you the overview. She wants you to recognize that you can take or leave a lot of this advice, right? Like if it's a change that works,
Hmm.
take it. If it's not working for you, you can leave it. I think that's empowering for a lot of folks. I like the fact that she talks about your noise versus your voice.
I love that. Yeah. It's a very introspective book in a lot of ways, right? And a lot of people, she lays it out in a really clear way. And I think a lot of people, this would distill a lot of things for people, because some people just, action, 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 it's got to happen. But I think as you grow older, you also realize there's a lot of wheel turning that goes on in your head. Um, and things that you have to toss out, things you keep, noise you deal with, how you get rid of it or not get rid of it, or just deal with it, or just, all these things make you who you are.
Yeah, it's so interesting, like that negative self-talk. I think so many of us don't recognize it. It's that like if you've ever read that book by Carol Dweck called Mindset. It's
No.
really fascinating. She's a Stanford University professor, and she talks about the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset.
Oh, I do know those terms. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I feel like it's important to I mean, we all know that we do that, but I think it's important to have that as a reminder that
Hmm.
sometimes that negative self-talk is something that we're creating for ourselves, and that it's also something you can change. So once you're aware of it, you can start to rephrase it. And I remember doing some work around that, creating exercises on how you can rephrase things that you would normally say about yourself. Because of course you would never say these things about like your best friend, but you might say like I suck at math, or anytime I've ever asked anyone to write something on a board in a session that I'm teaching, people always have to tell me right off the bat, I have terrible handwriting.
Hmm.
And so, a lot of those things, like I would never tell. I mean, people, of course, who are listening don't know this, but Michelle, you actually do have terrible handwriting.
I do.
And
Thank you.
it is,
That's a
but
compliment.
you are the only person that I've ever known who had terrible handwriting, who like said it and was like, and you saw it and you were like, yeah, I don't understand what any of those words mean. But I just feel like I love the fact that she is encouraging you to see those thoughts and
Uh-huh.
recognize them for the crap that they are, and to not let them stop you. I love that as the preamble to the entire book, right? Like don't
Yes,
not letting it stop you. Move forward.
absolutely. And again, but what's important is she talks about moving forward, but not moving forward and just like ignoring it, right? Like kind of coming to terms with it and understanding like where you are, how it affects you. You know what I mean? I remember
Yep.
going to a therapist once, and I was like in a really like having trouble, like a lot of trouble. So, and she said, a comment about how I don't really always kind of deal with situations at hand and get like introspective about them. I just move forward. And I said, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's just move forward.
Sounds like a great idea at the time. I don't know what you mean.
I don't know what's
I
wrong
don't know
with
what you mean.
that.
But I think I do. I think that that's what so many of us do, right? Is we're just like blindly moving forward, and sometimes we don't deal with the problem. And I like that she's saying, no, 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 like don't ignore it. Try and deal with the problem. Or here's some obstacles,
Yeah.
and here's some of the things that you can do to kind of overcome them.
Yeah. Yeah. That is important.
So I liked the fact that all of these chapters started out with a motivational quote.
Yes.
That was kind of cool. Some from people like some artists, maybe people like Richard Branson, Harvey Firestein. And it was funny because, of course, I listened to the book. So I kept
Oh, you
hoping that it
did?
was going to be read by the person.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
I
Oh.
kept hoping, like all of a sudden, Harvey Firestein was going to come on. I'm like, hello, it's me, Harvey. I have a motivational thing to tell you about this book. It's very important. Keep moving forward. I thought that would be funny, and I will say the fact that it is her voice again. I feel like that is it's a very different experience. I just feel like, especially for Bethany, who's known for her brash way, known for her voice, known for her accent, almost known for talking ridiculously fast. I
Hmm.
thought it was so fun to listen to. So I'd love to dive a little bit deeper. Do you want to go into the book itself?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Do you want to start off with so there are 10
10
tips, right?
rules. Yes, she has
10 rules to come from a place of yes. So the first one is break the chain.
yeah.
Which I thought that was great. That's when she's talking a lot about her past, how to sort of move on from what has held you back in the past. And I love the idea of being very deliberate about recognizing and then leaving behind, frankly, generational trauma.
Yes. I want to say that if we hadn't agreed to read this and talk about this, I would have thrown this fucking book out the window. Only because I see things that
Yeah.
say, "Here's 10 rules." You know what I mean? And I'm like,
Hmm.
"No, am I
Yeah.
reading like a Dianetics, or what the fuck am I getting into here?" So,
When you're done, you're Tom Cruise.
yeah, and 10 inches shorter, right? So,
Right. I want to be Leah Remini. I want to be Leah Remini.
so yeah, so the way that she set that up, I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, am I having to do this really? But anyway,
It's hard to listen to someone tell you about rules, isn't it? Like in terms of like it being something that sounds like a fun read. Like here's the 10 rules for blah 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 blah. Oh, I get very excited to read that.
yeah, exactly. It
It
sounds
doesn't
like
inspire enthusiasm, we'll say.
no, no. So so yeah, so break the chain, surviving childhood. There was a lot of ground she covered here, and she covered over 60 pages in the book on this. It was a lot. It was a lot. So she's got a lot to unload, I think, to tell us about.
I think she's done a lot of therapy and had a lot to process, right?
Y-
Like so what about this is where she's talking about her early life growing up in the racetrack, correct?
Yeah, her parents divorced, and well, they had a bad marriage. They would fight. They'd be together, not together. You know, and she's always been very skinny, and then she says here that her grandfather had a thing with, was it her grandfather had a thing with the woman had to
Well,
be really thin, and
yeah,
that
so he
sort of
sort
got
of
passed on to her
basically
mother, and he
yep, that
passed it
he
on
would
to
say
her.
to her.
Yeah,
Yep. That he would actually talk to her about that, which,
yeah,
I can't even imagine, but I can see how that is something that affected her mom, who changed her the way that she thought about herself and then
hmm,
changed the way that she thought about Bethany and the way that probably they all thought about food and taking care of themselves.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, so she you know I, she had people who liked her and probably sometimes loved her, but didn't really think that she was worth giving a lot of time to. And that makes me feel bad. So you have this kid, and but then like her mother would do amazing things. Like they go on? They went on a trip to. They go to France. Where'd they go? They went all over
You can
Europe.
almost see the highs and lows, can't you? Like you
It's
could
yeah,
like for me, I can almost see in that first chapter, just in that break the chain chapter, you can sort of see her life as a series of like highs and lows. Like I can almost feel her mom's manic energy, right? Sort of
yeah,
coming in and being like swooping in and taking her to Paris where they're gonna eat and Bethany's gonna be able to go to a bar for the first time. I feel like Bethany is in this scenario, she is like the less famous Drew Barrymore, right? So she's like
yeah,
that similar trajectory, right? Where she has this mother who has like weird boundaries
yeah,
around who's the mom, who's the child. It's very like ab fab, right? With Sapphy Darling.
yeah,
It really is. It's really like that reversal.
yeah.
Um and and I think that that was something that Bethany became very deliberate about when she had her daughter too.
Yes, she was very deliberate with that, and that's good. That's good. Although, unfortunately, she ends up perpetuating some of the same bullshit.
Some stuff gets in there. You try
Yeah,
hard, but sometimes it gets in there.
yeah. But so as much as she tries and she understands, like whatever. Well, the relationship with her husband was that's another couple of podcasts in and of themselves. But she's basically she
That's a
admits
whole
that
other podcast to break that down,
yeah,
Michelle. This that's
she's got
it's a
him in
bonus
her
episode.
lair, and he's basically like her, like, permanent secretary. And they don't really have a relationship that I call a working relationship. It's working, like, for her
Yeah.
work, but it's not like a working, functioning relationship. I don't know. I saw my
Well,
parents have a
yeah.
business together, and it worked really well, and they still really liked each other, and they were married for like 65 years. So, you can do it.
I don't think it's easy though, and I think that Bethany brought and who knows too with Jason, but I think we know what Bethenny brings to the table in terms of the stuff that she's carrying with her. So there's a lot already
Yeah.
that she's bringing to the table. So I think that's why Break the Chain is such a large chapter.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
and I think it was necessary. I honestly got a little bored halfway through. I wanted to kind of get to the stuff.
Yeah.
That would be my complaint about the overall. I wanted things to move a little bit quicker, and I wanted to hear less about like how often she was going to throw herself at the next guy. However,
Mm-hmm.
um, but
A big theme in this book. Yeah.
yeah, it is a theme. Dudes are a big theme. Number two, do you want to say that one?
Yeah. Find your truth.
So tell me what you want, what you really, really want.
Want my dog to stop barking outside. But what I want, yeah, what she
Can't
wants
hear
is
him.
a man. What she
Can't hear
wants
him.
is a man. Um,
Yeah, she does want
to break it down, finding your truth keeps changing with you. And she talks about Larry, like Larry, like this guy who was chasing her for years, and they go on this like 16-day. I've never been on a fucking 16-day
60.
in paradise. I'd want to go to like another country. And
Yeah,
she
frankly.
finally says, they were in this like bubble and getting along really well, and then she like says she'd marry him, and then he wasn't into it. And so she realizes that that was what was fun for him, was the chase. Um
Yes.
so, but again, here she is just throwing herself with another guy, and then she brings up the thing with her baby. Do you want to address that?
Oh God, the thing with the
What-
baptism.
Yeah, which I didn't really
Yeah.
get why she's so flipped out, but
It's very weird to watch. So she has this woman who, once she has her daughter, she and Jason have a live-in nanny, and I can't think of what the woman's name is. I should have
Gina.
written it down.
It's Gina.
Oh, Gina.
Yeah.
And she's a big part of the family. She
Mhm.
lives there. She's caring for this daughter. They love her. I don't know. She's Christian, but I'm not sure exactly what denomination. Maybe some type of Baptist. And they ask to. She asks Bethenny and Jason if they want to have the baby baptized, and they say no. And then she says, "Well, would you want to have like a special blessing?" And they say, "Okay, maybe." And so they go down to the church with their daughter, and everything's fine. But they are honestly in the show, they're trepidatious before they leave. They kind of don't really want to do this. They were not thinking about it, right?
Mhm.
Bethany's
Mhm.
not a religious person. She just wasn't in a space for it. You could tell by watching the show. And I honestly think that Bethany was in like just a super fragile place, and probably her relationship was also jacked up at the time. But what happens is when the baby is given over to a couple of people to hold the baby, all of a sudden people start passing the baby around. It reminded me a teeny bit, and I know this is going to be a big stretch, so nobody like come at me on Instagram, of the scene in Mother. Did you see that movie, the horror movie with Jennifer Lawrence and Javier Bardem,
Yes. Yes.
where the baby is torn apart by the
Uh-huh.
people at the end?
Uh-huh.
It wasn't like that, but I think in Bethany's mind, that's what she saw. And so all of a sudden they couldn't
Oh,
see the
oh
baby
yeah.
because the baby was like it was a very crowded church, small
Yeah.
teeny tiny church, super crowded, everyone's standing.
Yeah.
So she couldn't see, and then she freaked out. And so Jason had to like get the baby. It was like he thought he was Indiana Jones and like get them out of the church. It was a very it really was. And like it's funny now because it was like super stupid, but I can almost imagine that she like something in her head was like off, but she freaked out. And it really damaged the relationship with the nanny.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can there's a lot that happens after you have a baby as well. And so you are for sure in a fragile relationship with yourself, with the world, with the baby. So and also the religion thing, she's been Jewish, she's been Catholic, she's what I mean? She's because it's not
Been there,
that's
done
not been
that.
yeah, that's not been a stable thing for her. So,
Right.
to kind of bring that into it. So yeah, now that you explain it, I get it. Reading it, it didn't seem like that big of a deal.
No, but really to watch it, I think that she thought it was that scene in Mother. That like,
Interesting.
and if nobody's seen that, I apologize for spoiling for you.
I'm gonna go look at
But
that scene. Yeah.
yeah, it's intense, but I think that's what Bethany was imagining, was that the baby was being taken away from her. But I think they
Mm.
just wanted to do a blessing. I think that's really all it was. It looked innocuous, but I think with the editing too, they kind
Yeah,
of
you
like had
never
a
know.
couple of like like swift cuts to
Yeah.
kind of like build the tension,
Uh-huh. With like her eyes
you know?
bugging out, right?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was I was surprised to hear that. But I think it goes to your vulnerability statement before Michelle, because she's telling stuff, even stuff that doesn't. She's talking about stuff that doesn't make her look good,
Yeah,
which
that's
I
true.
appreciate.
I do
I
appreciate that.
appreciate the
Yeah.
level of vulnerability. I think that as we move through this podcast, I feel like we're probably not going to be able to say that about every person
No.
who writes a book. I feel like I feel like Bethany has pretty high emotional intelligence. I feel like she sees herself as she is.
Oh, she definitely has very high
Yeah.
emotional intelligence, and
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think but yeah, so that was always something that freaked me out. So I was kind of bummed to see it in the book, but I get why she put it there. Um, and then number 3 is act on it, which I think a lot of people forget about. A lot of people, like, it's like with The Secret, when The Secret came out, everyone was like, all I have to do is just concentrate really hard on the thing that I want and I'm going to get it.
Yeah.
And they actually had to write a book after it called The Power, where they said, right. You got to think about it, but you also got to
She's gonna do the
put
work.
action behind it, right? You
Yeah.
got to do the thing, right? So she says you got to do the thing, which I love because for me, I've always sort of been into that motto of Elvis's TCB, taking care of business,
Yep. I love
in a
that.
flash.
Yeah.
I love that, and I love the idea of like not making excuses. So she's talking about that, and I think this is where she's talking about living in LA,
So, like,
and
she went to LA, and was she a bartender, and did she do culinary school out there?
she did, and then I think this is also when she is the nanny for the
Yeah,
Hiltons.
okay. Yeah, and I mean, I definitely roll with that, if you really like something, I'm really into just kind of, finding everything out about it. If you're able to go to school for it and, or do some sort of certification, just to know everything about it, to know all the angles. Um and and again, like, you never know, you never really know, but you like it and so you should do it and pursue it. How you know though when it's like a complete and utter fucking waste of time is beyond me, but
That's number
some
4.
yeah.
It's funny that you asked, Michelle. That's so fucked up that you say that. Take a look at number 4.
Everything's your business. That's my business. That's my business.
I agree, though. Do you like this one? I think is big too.
Yes. Yeah, no, whatever you do reflects back onto yourself. So you're right. Again, this is like an introspective thing, so you've thought about it, you've thought about your past, you've found your truth, you've done some stuff, you've done some shit on it, and now everything's your business and you're gonna kind of distill the whole thing, right? You're gonna think about it a little bit more.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
got to do it, and you got to do it to the best of your ability, right? So many people dial in certain parts of their lives, and
Yeah.
I love the idea of saying, like, listen, everything is your business. You treat everything with importance, right?
Yeah.
Even things that seem to be small tasks, you treat them with care and importance. And I like that. I like that she talks about her exercise video, Body by Bethenny, which I have
Mhm.
never seen and I do not want to watch. No offense, I love you, Bethany, but I'm not going to watch that. And of course, she talks about her Skinny Girl. I mean, there's opportunities for her to plug here too. So
Yes.
Skinny Girl detox supplements, and then her shapewear and her skincare. But my
Hmm.
favorite thing that she talks about here, Michelle, the motherfucking pashminas, please.
I love
The
it.
pashmina
She
business.
picked up
Speak on it.
on so she's in Neiman Marcus and she sees like a $500 pashmina scarf. Now, at the time, these were the hottest shit going. They were insane and they were that expensive. You can get them anywhere now. And they're very nice quality. But they were the it brand, and so she was like, "Damn it. If I could just find a way to get this, like, could I get a knockoff or something?" So I don't know, she starts making phone calls, and I don't know what year was this written, 2011. 2011.
Yeah.
So I the internet was around, and it was
Yeah.
sophisticated, but I think it seems like not everybody was like working it like she was, because then she's able to find like a supplier in India. I don't know how she finds them. She Googles the shit out of them. And they say, like, if you spend $1 billion with us,
I couldn't find a supplier across the street, Michelle.
I
I would
know. You spend $1 billion with us, you'll get like there'll be a nickel for you, and then you can sell them each for $100. And so she does that. She goes with it. And then she does this awesome like trade show or something where she gets like all these like colored jelly beans, like buckets of jelly beans, and she's coordinates them with the
That was clever,
stars.
wasn't it?
Yeah, that was very see, she's very clever. She's a good merchandiser like that. She really is. That's what it is, good merchandising. She's able to move things around to kind of
A
keep
good
them
eye.
fresh. Yeah. So yeah, that
I
was
love that story. That should be her bedtime story to her daughter every day, the Pashmina story,
ex-
because I feel like that it distills who Bethany is.
except for the fact where she
She
spent it all.
no, well, right, because she's much more frugal now. Now she's very like aware of money because she's also, and we didn't even mention this, she's a huge philanthropist through her
Yes.
Be Strong Foundation.
Yeah.
So she's a massive philanthropist. So she makes a ton of money. I think she spends a ton of money, and I think she gives a ton of money.
Yeah. But I think, wealthy people, a lot of them are wealthy because there's certain things that they know what they want to spend on, and they
Right.
don't spend on the things that they don't have like these like bizarre, like I must buy compulsion kind of thing. This is what they want to
You
spend
mean
on.
like me?
This is how they want
Well,
to do it. And that's the end of the story, and everything else can kind of fall off. But, they're very deliberate in what they want to do.
well, I think that's, we see her because she's lived so much of her life publicly.
Hmm.
You can actually see her grow that skill to where now this is something that she does all the time.
Yep. Yep.
Back when this is written, she's still, I mean, of course, we're all works in progress, but she's still baking, literally, which leads me to
Baking
number
her moldy
five.
cookies. Yeah. Yep.
Yep. Leads me right into rule number five. All roads lead to Rome, which is where she talks about how everything that you do, whether it's successful or not, is bringing you closer to where you want to go. And, it reminds me of that Japanese proverb, right? It's like fall down 7 times, get up 8, right? Just
Yep.
talking about resiliency and tenacity, which is cool, right? And which is so necessary, especially because so few of us succeed the first, second, or even third time. So she talks about her company, Bethenny Bakes, and that's where she had the issues with trying to keep things. It originally seemed like it was going to be a great idea to have them in these stores, but
Uh-huh.
then she wasn't able to keep them fresh, and they would get moldy or they would get crumbled, and she would lose money. And then she had problems finding the place to bake them at. So it seemed like that business was honestly, this so exemplifies this rule because it really was like an exercise where she learned a lot of stuff, even though it didn't necessarily succeed. I feel like there's a lot that she took from that that made her a much better businesswoman.
Yes, for sure. And what I appreciate is that it's very easy to look at somebody and say they're so successful, but you have to realize for every like one success, there's been like 1,000 failures behind that. And
Yeah.
that could be like a tough pill to swallow. But if you don't do the work, you're never gonna get anywhere. A lot of it's luck too. I mean,
Well, I think she's
yeah,
in the right places too,
yeah,
but I think that is the act on it part too. I think that's the part that, she gets up and this is clearly a hard worker too.
yes,
And I think that's a big part of it too. And that's, I mean, if you do the work, it becomes a lot easier to believe in yourself. I
yes,
think it's like just it becomes a big cycle, a self-feeding cycle.
yeah.
Um, and then so what was number 6, Michelle?
Um, Go for yours.
Mm,
Go for yours. I don't really have much to say about this section here. I just know she did Apprentice with Martha Stewart. I guess it's about she grabbed opportunities that she knew were going to be a lot of work, but she knew that she could stick with it and give it her all.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, take
so
the opportunity. I think that's really what it was like. When opportunity knocks, grab it, right?
right.
Like kick it into high gear with focus, determination, right? A certain amount of tenacity.
Yep.
No, I think that's totally, and honestly, I think that these, spoiler alert, but as we go along, I think it's important to talk about too. I think a lot of these things that she's talking about are true, but a lot of them aren't revelatory, right? They're not, so it's a lot of them are great reminders, but then there are a lot of them that are like, yep, that's just basically number 3, but in sheep's clothing. Um, I do think though one of the few that is very different and is important is the next one, which is number 7, which is separate from the pack.
Yep.
So I like the fact that she's really calling out, like focusing on what makes you unique.
Mm-hmm. Love that.
What's your niche? Like focusing less on what other people are doing and focusing more on what you can be doing that is specific and unique to you, your talent, your desire, whatever. So I thought that one I feel like is one of the few that I'm like, all right, I'm going to give that one a check. Like that's important to say.
And that speaks to her level of confidence as well, because if you feel like crap about yourself and you don't believe in yourself, you're never going to achieve that. And it reminds me of the thing that I say to my kids all the time. When they complain about another kid doing this, that, or the other thing, I say, worry about yourself, not about them. Just,
Yeah.
they're gonna do their thing. You don't have to jump off that bridge if you don't want. I prefer you not. And just you worry about you. You do you, and
Yeah.
if they want to fuck off, then that's fine. They can ruin it all. Um, yeah, and I think we see this in a lot of housewives. As housewives come and go, who are the ones who are able to maintain longevity? They're the ones who can really be independent and do their own thing. And, you know,
Yeah, they're the ones that you remember specifically, right? They're the ones that, I can talk so much about Bethany because she is so unique. She is so different from everybody else.
yep.
Then there are people, it feels very Stepford wifey, right? That there's lots of, there's a sea of housewives, and then there are people like Bethany.
Yes.
There are people like, Lisa Rinna, people who stand out and you're like, damn, even for being an asshole, people
Yeah.
like Sonia Morgan. I mean, I will say, New York, I think, has a disproportionate amount. Hot take here, everybody. New York, I think, has a disproportionate amount of like really interesting, individual, fascinating people.
I think so. I think you're right.
I'm heartbroken, by the way, that they could not get Legacy back. I was heartbroken to learn that it was because of Jill Zarin,
Oh, yeah.
who I am a fan of. But yeah, that just broke my heart because I'm nostalgic, like I said, for the early days of New York, and you know, before what they were wearing became more important than the stuff that they said or did.
Yeah. And really, they're all in their own rights, they're all businesswomen. I mean, I think a lot of women in later episodes, later series have sort of developed businesses
Yeah.
because of their fame. But I really truly feel that at least with New York, that they all came with their own thing. They all were, they're intelligent. They've done a lot of work.
They
And
feel capable in a
yes.
way that, and competent to me in a way that a lot of other cities just fundamentally don't. Like
Mhm.
when I look at Atlanta, I don't know why, but for me, the only competent person really is Candy.
Fucking absolutely, absolutely. She's the
Like that's
best.
the only person that I think to myself, like that's somebody who is, running a business, taking care of business. I mean, of course, Marlo was running Le Archive, which of course, since we are French students, know should be L apostrophe archive, should be l'archive, not Le Archive.
I know.
I mean, I got a fucking D actually, and I copied off Julie the whole time. And and even I knew that. But yeah, I feel like Bethany is the first competent housewife. I think that's why I feel like mad respect for her. Like I'm a ride or die Bethany girl. So all right, Michelle, tell us about our next one.
Let's
Own
see.
it.
Own it.
Very
Own
Lisa
it.
Rinna. Own
Own
it.
it. Own it. Um, well, we go back to the guy thing, right? We go back to the guy, right?
Mm,
She's finally owning a man. So
mhm.
she's uh there's the recurring theme of her like a family life that sucks, right? And not really being able to have like great connection with her dad or with her mom. They've really not both been nice to her. But she finally is able to hold down a man, get married. She has a baby, and I feel like it's like finally this is it, own it, right? All these little themes that
Yeah.
have been throughout the book. And if you really think about it, baby, did she really talk about wanting a baby ever?
Not really. I mean, it becomes a thing further into the series, not in the first season, but mostly more in the second season. Um, but she talks a little bit about the fact that she wants children because in the first season, the guy that she's dating already has a few children and
Uh-huh.
isn't sure if he wants to have any. And so she's not sure if that's a deal breaker or not.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
So yeah, so it was like her right to say yay or nay to it. Um, but I guess, in terms of like owning it. I feel for her, it was like she owns a proper family unit now that she
Yeah.
finally made it. Which is
Yeah,
sad. I don't know. I feel bad for her with her parents. They really,
I do, but and I feel like the whole thing is kind of a like a what not to do with children, like the story of her real family. But I think that what's nice is that she is really learning the lessons from this. I don't think in this book she is, or even in her life, that she is one of those people who like wallows in the thing. I feel like
no.
there's so many people like, and there's even so many people we see on Housewives who, when something happens to them, they're like, and then the thing happened.
Yeah.
And then it's, and no matter what it is with that person we go back to, like with for example, Ramona with Mario, with like him leaving her. Like how
Mhm.
often does she talk about that? Like, every season she gets drunk a couple of times and has to talk about it.
Uh-huh.
Whereas I think that she hasn't processed that. And I feel like what we're seeing with Bethenny is that even though some of these things are unsexy, she's processing them.
Yes.
And sometimes not successfully in the case of Jason, right? Like it's
Right.
hard to read that section about, or hear that section for me about her getting married and know how gross this is going to be for her, right? How right now this guy seems like he's so sweet, and I thought he was like amazing. There are times during the Bethany getting married show that I would watch it and I would go, "Oh, she is a fucking asshole.
Yeah. Yeah.
He is so good. She's so lucky to have him.
Yeah.
She should shut up before he leaves her."
I,
And now, I
yes.
realize, you know what I mean?
I like how you
I
pointed your finger at me like your mother. You before you open your mouth again, think on it.
right. Yeah, like sometimes she would say shit and I'd be like, "Oh, oh." Like she would say something that was like a throwaway comment and it would like cause a problem. And so it's been cool actually to see the behind the scenes for a lot of these things. And I think as we get to like as we're hurtling towards the end of the book, I think that these points get weaker because what they are really talking about is like integrating all of these changes right now.
Yes. Yeah. I think
So
so.
like the next one, number 9, come together.
Just connections, keeping
Yeah, like,
connections.
really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Making sure that like, I mean, I hate to say it, but it's like it's so literal, but I think that she ran out. I think in reality there are 5, points, 5
Well, I
rules.
like to celebrate everything though. I like number 10. I like
Oh,
that.
yeah, celebrate. Yeah, I'm telling you, I actually think for me, if I had to write this book, I would keep, let me see, not that this is a category, but if I had to, I would keep, I like Break the Chain, I like Find Your Truth.
Mhm.
Um, I would keep Act on It and Everything's Your Business, because I believe that all road lead to Rome is part of Everything's Your
It's
Business, and I believe
yes,
Go
the
for
same
Yours
thing.
is
Yep.
part of Act on It.
Yep.
And then I would keep Separate from the Pack,
Yep.
and then I would keep Celebrate Everything.
Yep. I have to
And
say
because
I
I would
agree
use
with you.
celebrating as that. I would use Celebrate Everything as 8, 9, and 10. I would talk about owning it, coming together, all that.
Yep.
But at a higher level. Because I think that a lot of this stuff is good. It's like it's fascinating to see her sort of grow, but I think there could have been 5 points to this book and it would have just been just as effective and
There
maybe moved a little quicker.
the book was there was it was too long. It was too long for what she said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 I would have loved it if it was like 75 pages shorter and it was 5 points.
Yeah,
And those I think those 5 points are pretty strong.
they are.
Um but yeah, I mean, spoiler alert, like for me it's a meh. It's a solid meh. I mean, there are things that I liked, and just as many things that I thought felt like fluffy. And
Uh-huh.
I felt like in today's day and age, listening to this 13 years after she wrote it,
Yep.
almost, a lot of the advice around men, I would think that if we asked her today, if we were able to get her on the podcast and we were able to say to her, do you feel there's a level of cringe when you hear yourself talking about your relationships with men? And would you write this differently in terms of what you thought you should do now that you are an adult? You've been through like this horrible, thing with Jason, and now that you have a daughter who's about to become a teenager. Because
What do you think she would say?
I think she would I think that she would not regret anything because that's what I like about her. I think she'd say she
Mhm.
has no regrets, But I think that that's a story that you would want to be really careful to share with like a teenager, right? Like that, like how you know how deeply mommy was pivoting her life for men. Not even that you'd want to share it, but I wouldn't want her to share it without a almost a disclaimer at the end that was like, I realize that this isn't the way that things should be and that you should be focused on this, this, this. I feel like that wasn't strong enough for me. Like I
No.
didn't get that
Yeah,
she
I
ever
agree.
learned the lesson because she was so into the relationship with Jason at the time that she just sounded like somebody who won. She's like, I waited, and now I have my perfect Prince Charming.
Yeah.
And I think that part of me feels like I would love her to go back and go like, while this was an important relationship to me, I realize now that that should never have been my focus.
I I I f I have suspicion that she is not emotionally intelligent when it comes to
Her own
marriage for
relationships,
men.
maybe.
Just it's a daddy thing, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think, um yeah, I think that's a hard one for her. I think she could do all the other stuff, but I think she's so angry with her dad, who was such a fucking wanker, really. I mean,
I
just
mean, I think she's probably heartbroken. Yeah,
she's
some of that
heartbroken.
whole.
She was really they treated her like she was a consequence of the marriage. And I hate saying that,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
so she's always looking for somebody to they all owe her something, right? Somebody's got to make it up to her somehow.
And take care of her. Yeah. It's funny. It's hard to hear her say that when now I know that she is so cool on her own.
Yeah, she's so
That she
capable.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that she's so, or maybe it's not that it's sad. Maybe it's the my nostalgia and sadness for that girl,
Yeah.
for the girl that she was. But I have to say, the person she's become is so super impressive.
Yeah. Yes, for sure.
So, what do you think, Michelle? Would you recommend this? So, someone comes to you and they're like, "Listen, I need a book, some kind of self help, something that's going to be motivating and it's going to teach me some stuff."
Well, on that level, meh.
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 It's solid, right? It really
I mean,
is. It's a solid one, right?
it's a
It's a
solid
solid
meh.
meh.
I mean, as a
All
self-help,
right.
well, I wouldn't
All
read it. I
right.
would listen to it because
Yeah.
it's too much to the words, or she doesn't have like an immense vocabulary, and I get a little
No, bless
snotty
her.
about that, right?
Yeah.
So, and I did listen to it a little bit as well, like if I was driving, and she just says the same stuff too many times, like seven, she says it 7 ways to Sunday, and I
Right.
got to get over that. As a self-help book, no, but as a thing like in the Bethany verse, of a woman who's like incredibly successful and what she went through in her earlier life and how she's distilled all this. I think it's a good read if you're interested in like the saga of Bethany. This is for sure a good one, and I think you could probably pick this up at any time.
Game of Hose, right? You can just
Yeah,
it's her
the
it's
Game
her
of
saga. Game of Hose.
yes. She just needs the dwarf now to come in here somehow. Lighten
No,
up.
I
Lighten
think
it
that's
up.
a great take. I think that's a really smart and thoughtful take, Michelle. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that as a quote unquote self-help book, not so much.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I think you're right. If you love Bethany and if you love Bravo, and if you want some behind a little bit behind this of behind the scenes
Mhm.
tea, not a
Mhm.
ton, but a little bit. I think you're right. I think it's an easy one. I would also recommend the audiobook because of course it is Bethany. It's
Yeah.
never more fun than when it's written by the author, and especially when that author has a big personality. So you really, I mean, it is a fun listen,
Mhm.
even if it isn't, like I said, even if the points aren't something that are gonna make you change your life.
Right. But they were good to
So
think about, Maria. They were good to think about.
oh, yeah,
Like it's like I think it also
it's
validated that I think about a lot of these things as well, and I
it's a good point.
consider myself emotionally intelligent. So so there
Well,
you
that's a good point. Like, I mean, I think it is one of those things too, where it's nice to be validated that everybody is the same, and that it doesn't matter where you are in your life, that these are things that other people have either processed or are processing.
Yep.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what do you think about the cringeometer, Michelle? So if we're going to, since we are pure cringe, I mean, we're going to call 10, we're saying, 0 to 10, 10 being pure cringe, so much so that it's like worse than the worst episode of the British version of The Office. so cringy that you have to squint your whole face and you have to watch it with behind sunglasses from the other side of the room, half covering your face. If that is 10, 0 is no cringe at all. It's fine. How cringy do you think this book is
I'll
on
tell
the
you,
cringeometer?
I'm giving it I'm gonna give it like a 7.5 because her thing with men. I just she's just all over the fucking world like chasing these men. Not all over the world, but it just I've never put that much work into men. I don't know. It's like she travels for this one and that one and she's sort of always looking for something. Um
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
then like once she's looking for something, I can't really see like Bethany like doing like the washing and the cooking and being like, like the ultimate mate. You know what I mean? She's looking to catch something so that they can give her something. Not like she
Yeah.
wants to create like a unit.
Right. And that's why I even said before, like, I wonder if like President Bethany would want to come back and like discuss a fucking few things with past Bethany.
Right.
Uh, I'm close. I actually had written down before a 6, but the more we talked about this, it's like any other book club. Sometimes the more you talk about it, you
Mhm.
change your review.
Yeah.
And so I'm willing to go up to a 7 because I feel the same way. It almost made me feel a little bit like prudish in the beginning, which I don't think I am, but I felt like a lot of it was distasteful. Where I was like, really again,
Yeah.
really again.
Again.
And, and honestly, I do think she should go back and do a little pronoun changing and maybe
Oh
not
yeah.
make it so heteronormative. So I gave her the extra point of cringe because everything is about husband,
Yeah,
him,
and as opposed to like life partner.
right? Or them, or you're
Yeah.
just, you could even just say your other half or whatever. So I think for me that sort of bumped it up a little bit. But yeah, I think there's a pretty high cringe factor. All right, so we'll have to ask folks. So if you guys are loving the podcast and want to follow us on Instagram, we are Pure Cringe Podcast. Underneath the post for this particular podcast, we would love to hear about your cringe votes. Where do you place this book on the cringeometer?
Mm.
All right, so
Yeah, I'd
let's
like to
move
hear
on,
that.
Michelle. I'm actually dying to hear because I feel like a lot of people are going to give Bethany a break, and I think you and I
Uh
went for the
yeah.
jugular. We were like, we just pumped it right up to 7, whereas I bet a lot of people will be kinder and gentler.
Well, we think a lot about Bethany. Like
We
I spent
do,
a lot of time thinking about her.
we do. We've got Bethany on the brain.
Yeah.
Not the least of which is because we are going to now recap what is an iconic, very, very early scene that takes place right around the time where the beginnings of this book are sort of gelling for Bethany. And the reason why is because we're actually watching a season 2 clip. It's actually was aired on March 31st, 2009, which feels like another lifetime ago.
Mhm.
And it is very famous. It is Kelly Ben Simone versus Bethenny Frankel. It is a very famous confrontation. But the context around the confrontation and the reason why I'm even mentioning it in terms of the book, and the reason why I wanted to do this in terms of this book is because the episode before this, the episode that sets up the confrontation that we're about to talk about, is where Bethany starts and actually gels the phrase "a place of yes." So she is in a meeting for a charity with Jill. And Kelly is asking a ton of questions that are driving Bethany crazy. So Bethany really does act a little juvenile and makes a lot of like snide commentary.
Mhm.
And at one point calls
Because
Kelly
she's
Madonna.
irritated, all because she's irritated.
Right. She's pissed off because Kelly has questions about the charity. And Kelly says something like, I don't just lend my name to anything. I want to ask questions. And it just pisses Bethany off. And so in her voiceovers and in her interview scenes, Bethany actually says that she comes from a place of yes, that that's the kind of person she is. And
Mhm.
that's where the title of this book comes from. And so what happens is that Kelly, of course, is unhappy and then actually requests to meet with Bethany. And that's the scene that we're about to watch, or they're about to talk about.
Okay.
So I've seen this scene a gazillion times, and I have a ton of love, like I said, for pre-glam squad,
Yep.
housewives, where
Mhm.
people were wearing their own clothes, having their own makeup, sometimes looking like shit, seeing their under eye circles or
Mhm.
clothes that aren't have not been styled for them. That's what we're getting here. Except for we're getting like a pumped up version, right? Because of course Kelly Ben Simone is a former model,
Right.
and
She looks good.
Bethany,
Yeah, she always
she looks
kinda looks good.
amazing.
Yeah.
And Bethany, let's give some credit, is no slouch herself. So how do you want to do this? Do you want me to kick off, or do you want to?
Um, yeah, why don't you well, I can kick off. I'm easy.
Yeah, I mean, I have a terrifying amount of notes, so
You
you go.
do. You have a terrifying
I
amount of
do.
notes. Yeah.
I'll jump in if you forget anything. You go.
Okay, so it starts off that Bethany says that Kelly said that she wanted to meet with her. Is that how she phrased it? And so Bethany's figuring that, since they're not friends, since Kelly has always deliberately ignored Bethany every time she's
Yeah,
met
she
her,
wants to sit down. That's what she
she wants
wants.
to sit down. So she figures, given the fact that, Kelly always pretends that she's never met Bethany. Instead of doing, Kelly never does the Andy Cohen thing of like, it's good to see you again, right?
Yeah.
Kelly could have done that. I think maybe
No,
there wouldn't have
no.
been so much frustration. So anyway, it shows Bethany at this bar by herself, a really crowded
Ex-
bar,
expressionless, right? Like, no.
expressionless, just sitting there with the drink, you know, just sitting there. I don't know. And then we get the fact we somehow they make it so that we understand that there's some time that elapses. And then Kelly shows up, and Bethany says, "You're late." And Kelly says, "What does Kelly say to that?
So Bethany
Too bad
says,
for you."
so literally Kelly says, "Hey, thanks for coming and meeting me here." And Bethany says, "I've been waiting a half hour." And Bethany says, and Kelly says, "Really, that's too bad." I almost spit out my drink when I was watching this again. Really, that's too bad.
Do you think she was late on purpose?
Yeah, I think she's just not very bright. I think she's kind of flighty. I don't.
Mhm.
I think that's part of her brand. And she actually says to Bethany, "I want to make something perfectly clear for you, so we are on the same page." She says, "We are not friends." I mean, I was kind of stunned. Like, I was not expecting when I first saw this. I was not expecting Kelly to come in so hot because she seems super daffy and almost
Yeah,
incapable of
yeah,
being kind of rude.
yeah, yeah. No,
And
she does. She does. I think Bethany pushes the right buttons, though.
and I think honestly, she surprises the shit out of Bethany because literally Bethany is still expressionless during this whole time. I think Bethany thought that when she told her she was late, that she was going to be able to lay into her. I think she
Yes.
thought that.
Yeah, I think
And
Bethany. Exactly what I thought. Bethany was just like, "Fuck, I missed my window."
yeah, because literally, I mean, once Kelly says we are not friends, all Bethany says is correct.
Yeah, correct. Correct.
One word, which this is, I mean, you guys got to write this shit down because this is the only time in any housewife show or any show that Bethany will give one word answers.
Hmm.
It really is. And so, do you remember what Kelly says next? It actually cracked me up because this stuff was it was revelatory for me to understand what was happening here.
Um, she says something about does she reference her right away, like being like a child or immature?
Yes,
And then
it's the
she
first thing
says,
she says. Your attitude is for kids.
yeah, and she says, I'm up here and you're down here. So I
Yes, she says,
actually,
if you want to play with me,
yeah,
come up to me. I don't go down to you.
and I didn't really get that, but you explained it. You had a good take on that. I
Yeah,
thought that it was just Heather thought she was the shit, and that Bethany had to like,
everybody did. Kelly was just so inarticulate about this.
okay,
She really was. I think that she had an opportunity here and she was very inarticulate. But I think we all thought, including me, the first time I saw this, I was like, oh my God, is she saying she's better than Bethany? That's what Bethany thought. That's what the whole world thought. But when I was watching this, and I have to tell you, here's the game changer. Again, closed captioning, because I'm reading it too. And
hmm,
so what I'm looking at is literally Kelly saying, your attitude was like a child. If you want to play with me, if you want to hang out with me, you
yeah,
come up to my behavior as an adult. I'm not going to come down here with you and trade little snarky barbs like you did yesterday.
uh-huh,
I'm
yeah, yep,
here. This is where your behavior is. You're down here like a kid. I'm an adult. If she had said that, we would not even be having this conversation. I would have had to pick a completely different scene for us. But
gotcha,
because she was inarticulate and really was just, I think she thought she was being very articulate. I also think that just like us, Bethany jumped to that conclusion.
yeah, yep,
I mean, I would in the moment, I'm sure I would too. But when I read it or when I really watched it and I saw it written on the screen, it 100% made sense to me what she was talking about. She was talking about Bethany being snarky the day before and saying like, what she thinks she is Madonna, like under her breath,
hmm,
which she thought was really immature to do at this charity meeting. Now, I hate to be on Kelly's side. Like, honestly, I want to say to Bethany, like, I fucking hate that you put me in a position Where now I gotta agree with Kelly. But like, yeah, you kind of were an asshole, and this is her checking you, but just
Yeah,
badly.
she's checking her, but the thing is, where Kelly persists in doing this thing of pretending
It
that she
gets
doesn't know
worse.
Bethany, she's
Right.
making it worse for herself. So she's
Right.
not doing herself any favors. She's being a kind of an idiot about the whole thing. So, is Bethany getting a little pissy? Yeah. I mean, yeah, maybe
As soon as
Bethany.
she does that, Bethany comes unraveled, right?
Yes. She
As
does.
soon as she does that, suddenly Bethany starts to like wake up.
Yeah.
But she's still a little glazed.
Yes.
I think she is stunned by that too, that statement from Kelly.
Yeah.
Because her next thing that she says is, I mean, and Michelle, you tell me, if so you say something to someone that's like really like, "Pow," like you got them, and they come back and they go, "I don't do anything you want me to do." What? That is literally her response. She says, "I don't do anything you want me to do." And I went, "Oh shit, she's got her number." She just tagged Bethany in the nose. Bethany is bleeding from the nose. Do you know what I mean? Like I hate to say it, but like Kelly got her because she's completely unraveling. And then she actually says, Bethany goes, "I'm waiting to hear what you invited me here to say."
Uh-huh.
She doesn't even
She
understand what's
doesn't get it.
happened.
Yeah, because
She
Kelly's not
doesn't get it.
articulating. Yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't get it at all. And it's here where Kelly is just like, "I will not indulge you." It sounds like she's talking to, I mean, you wouldn't even talk to your kids this way,
But she
but
is
it does
indulging
sound like
her.
that.
But the thing is
Yeah.
she's so inarticulate. She sounds like she sounds like an 11-year-old. She is indulging her. This is what the funny thing is.
Yes. Hit it, Michelle.
That
She is. Beat her up, beat her. Well, you know what it is, honestly? Because she says, "We are not the same. This is you, this is me." And then Bethany, now is when she wakes up. She says, "You're here? Because why?" And then Kelly says, "Because I won't put up with your antics." Every word she says, like the word choice with Kelly, even though she's inarticulate, the word choice is amazing to me.
Yeah.
Like she is specifically choosing words that you would use to describe children.
Yeah.
Like your antics, "I won't indulge you."
Yeah.
I know you think it's cute. That's what Kelly says too. "I know you think it's cute, but you embarrass yourself."
Yeah, I've definitely said all of that to my kids.
Right? And right,
Probably when they were about 5.
well, and that's when she says, Kelly goes, while you're talking," meaning like those snarky remarks, "I'm busy doing things," meaning for charity." And then Bethany is still during this time expressionless.
Yeah.
She is hitting with us a full on sphinx.
Yeah.
Blink, blink, holding a drink. Blink, 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 blink. And so then literally Kelly says, "I don't like you."
Okay, now
Imagine
we're
someone
getting
saying this to your
somewhere.
face. Michelle, I really seriously, imagine someone saying this to your face. "I
I've
don't,"
said
and
that to
also while you're
somebody's
being
face.
filmed,
You've never said that to anybody?
while you're being filmed to be watched all over the world. "I don't like you. I don't think you're funny. We aren't friends. We won't ever be friends."
Well, I think I just said that
And
to my husband last week. He's still here. He doesn't
he's
believe
still
me.
there. True. He's still coming back.
I
Well, and then Bethany still, it's like this is a job interview. Do you know what she says next? Correct. Like someone's asking her, "So you worked at Neiman Marcus from 1982 to 1987. Correct. Correct. In the shoe department." And so then Bethany says, "You invited me here to make yourself feel better. You are up here because you are a model. You collect celebrities." Now we see how resentful Bethany is
Yes.
of
Yes.
Kelly. She
Now,
said,
yeah.
"You collect celebrities because you are not me, and you act like you never like you never met me." And that is the thing, to your point. The fact that she is repeatedly acting like she never met Bethany is what is completely flipping her out.
Mhm.
You're
Yeah.
right. It's the fact that she is doing that. Then Kelly says, "Let's go down memory lane." Again, the, how many times can she say something that is cluing us into the fact that she thinks Bethany is immature?
Uh-huh.
Like everything she said, she's just, if she just said like, "I've got the plane, it's going into the hangar," like how much more juvenile could she be talking to her? She says, Kelly says, "You came to my house with a guy." And then Bethany says that you flirted with the entire time.
Uh-huh.
And then Kelly says, starts saying that the guy was a photographer that was hired to take pictures. And now Bethany is fully awake. She's finally like getting her gears are sort of
Yeah.
grinding.
Yeah.
She says, "No, no, no. I was invited to your house by Ginny Hilfiger, who's a friend of mine." And then Kelly says, "Ginny has her opinion of you. I was disgusted by your behavior." And so now it sounds like she's talking about that party
Although
when she's still talking about the day before, I think.
but that Ginny thing, see, I got a little stuck on that. Does that mean that Ginny likes her or that Ginny doesn't like her?
Ginny is friends with Bethenny, and what Kelly is saying is that Ginny may have her opinion of you. I just don't agree.
Okay.
Ginny may love you. I just don't agree.
Okay.
And so I think here Bethenny is still referencing. She's not, Kelly says, "You tell me doing what?" And then Bethenny says, "You're making things up." And this is where it gets nuts. This is where, do you remember? So, Michelle, I don't know if you'll remember this. You probably will. When Michelle and I were younger, we used to love to go into Boston. We would meet in downtown Crossing in Boston, and we would go and we would eat pizza at this
Mhm.
amazing place called Ruggles. Do you remember Ruggles? We
Yeah,
would go there,
Ruggles.
and
You
I
get your
would just
meatball
smoke.
pizza? Yep.
Yep, I'd get my meatball. She remembers my order. Yes, I would get my meatball pizza, and I would smoke during the entire time because back then you could smoke in restaurants. And we used to do something that we saw Billy Idol do in an interview, where an interviewer asked him a question, and he answered something completely different, just whatever he wanted
Non
to talk about,
sequitur, right? Yeah.
just completely. And so we called it Billying.
Yeah.
And so we used to talk about that we would go places and we would just Billy. We would just talk because, we hadn't seen each other. We would just catch each other up. I feel like this is the demented version of Billying. These
Yep.
are two separate conversations.
Yes,
They're
exactly.
not even talking about, I think I could make the case that they are talking about separate incidents. But I feel like one of them is like, "Tell me what you're talking about." And the other one's like, "You know what I'm talking about." And
Exactly. Exactly.
it
Yeah.
is so fucked up. It, and then Kelly is saying things like, "I'm a stranger." And then Bethany's like, "You've met me." It's so fucking weird. They're arguing over whether they've met before. And it's like, it is just so weirdly awkward. I mean, you can't look away.
No.
This in and of itself for me is off the cringe meter because once we get to this part of the conversation, because I don't know what the fuck is even happening
And they're
here,
both totally confused by the other.
but no one will stop talking. They
No.
just keep going and keep going. And so finally, Kelly gets up and all of a sudden she becomes Keanu Reeves in fucking Point Break. And she's like, "I don't know, have a great life later.
Yeah.
I'm an FBI agent." And she just gets up and she fucking walks out.
Yeah.
And Bethany you see her talking head where she's like, she tries hard to make she's a calamity work as a joke. Says it like 3 times. Um, and so Bethany gets up to leave and she's like kind of like looking at her phone. Remember when phones were so small? Where she's
Uh-huh.
like texting by hitting the same number 3 times?
Oh, the cute Tory, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Cute Terry
So
or
yeah, so she's literally on a, on a Samsung from fucking,
Mhm.
2007. So she's standing there and literally she's going to leave and Kelly is there like lurking inexplicably. I don't even
Yeah,
remember
I
this
didn't get
part.
that. I didn't get that.
And Bethany is like just looking at her and Kelly goes, "You need to chill out. You are so inappropriate." Again, is Kelly talking about tonight? Is she
Yeah,
talking about
or
the first time they met? Or is
yeah,
she talking about yesterday?
yeah.
Not sure. Bethany goes, "I'm completely calm." And she is. I mean, Bethany is again back to having zero expression, full
Mhm.
on Sphinx again.
Correct, yeah.
Kelly starts to say, yeah, correct. Kelly starts to get up again. She goes, "I got to go. I have a date." And then Bethany says, "With your imaginary boyfriend? Bye." And that's the end scene. That small scene. That was what, 4.5 minutes?
Uh-huh.
That small scene was like a launching pad for Bethany because so many people viewed it as her like punching back after somebody telling her
Yep.
that she was here, when in fact, I don't think that was what it was at all. I think it was just a conversation with what is the opening of the Sound and Fury? A tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury,
Oh,
signifying
yes.
nothing,
Yeah.
right? That's what I feel like this scene is. I feel like it's sound and fury, and it doesn't. n- Neither one of them is talking about the same event.
No,
And
they're
then
some on opposite planes somewhere, yeah.
one of them is easily in the Bermuda Triangle, Michelle. Those planes ain't never going to land. Those planes are not landing. Even now, when I reread my notes, because I wrote everything down exactly because I couldn't fucking believe it. I wanted to be like super accurate when we talked about it. Because as I was watching it and reading these words, I was like, are they really saying that? This one is saying something completely different from what this one is saying. And I rewound it multiple times. And
Really.
it happened so quickly. It happens very quickly on screen.
Yeah.
But like there's a lot of things that they say and they just are apropos of nothing.
Now, how much of this do you think that it's the editing, trying to make it deliberately obtuse?
I don't think it's a lot of the editing because
Kelly's
And
up to.
if I can ever convince you to do the rewatch of season 1 of Real Housewives of New York, you'll be able to see, or and actually no, you won't be able, because this is season 2. Kelly is her own special blend of vapid.
Yeah, she's daft. She really is. Yeah.
And it's like it's like self-delusional in
Uh-huh.
in a way. So I feel like it doesn't resolve itself, but you can even see, to me, I think the best thing that you can do, and the best way that for you to like have completion on this particular scene, is at some point watch the reunion for this season, for season 2, where people talk about it. Or
Uh,
watch the reunion for season 3 after Scary Island, where she completely loses her shit and is sent
yep.
home by Bravo.
Yep.
In the reunions where ostensibly everything comes out, right? People, we break the fourth wall, and we remind these people that they're on a show and we're watching it, and like these things happen. She never takes accountability. It's just not a thing she's able to do. I don't think, I
She
don't think
doesn't
that
get
she
it.
has, I think her self-awareness is low. I really do.
Oh,
And I think that, I mean, at the time, I don't think Bethenny was any better. I think she was kind of a snarky bitch. And
yeah.
I think that Bethenny back then could dish it out but couldn't take it. I think that if Kelly had come in, if I could rewrite this scene, Kelly would come in, say everything, right? Like everything up to, I'm up here and you're down here. She could have said, your attitude is for kids. If you want to play with me, you come up to my level. She could have said all of that stuff. But if she had just stopped then and not kept going, it might have been a productive thing or people might have said,
Yeah.
remember that scene where Kelly just took Bethenny to the cleaners?
Yeah, because where she says like I'm up here and you're down here, what does that mean? That Bethany, you're broke as shit and I'm rich? Or I
There's
mean,
1,000 interpretations, right?
yeah,
Bethany talks about the fact that she's a model. Bethany is insecure about her looks, so you see that's the first thing that she goes to.
yep,
Is it
yep,
because you're a model? You collect celebrities?
yep.
Like, so everybody gets an opportunity to show their ass. It's an equal opportunity ass showing.
To show your ass.
Yeah, and they do, bless them. They do show their ass. Yeah. Do you have, before we go, do you have a favorite tip, or was there a quote from the book that you want to share? Anything that jumped out at you?
um, Anything that jumped out at me. I know I'm really wavering on this one, aren't I? You know something? I really loved her rule number 10. Celebrate the business of being happy. Just
Yeah,
celebrate everything. Having kids, having like lost family members, the passage of time. We're officially kind of old ladies now, and
yeah,
and I think, I remember at one point, my kids were little, everything was just so fucking crazy. I was working, and I got away for years without putting up Christmas decorations or
yeah,
Easter or anything, and I actually really liked it. One day Liam came home, and I don't know how he even had this conversation with his brother, but they said they want Easter eggs with glitter. And I said, "What are you talking about?" "Well, it's Easter. We want glitter Easter eggs." I was like, so I had to go get the glue and the glitter and all that stuff. And we made some awesome eggs, I have to say. But that really started me back on, this is it.
yeah,
You want to have these celebrations. You're marking the passage of time. You're marking the fact that you're still here, right? And that you're still going, and that even if some people have died, you're still moving on. So to me, that was really important. How about you?
that's
Anything jump
awesome.
out at you?
I love that one, definitely, and I agree with everything that you said. It's so important. I also loved the teasing out of the noise versus voice. I thought that was a
Oh
great
yeah,
tip,
yeah.
to sort of hear that and recognize it, because that's something that I myself work on, right? Like being able to rephrase and reframe my thoughts to make sure that I'm, doing myself a service, right? That I'm not talking myself out of doing stuff,
Yeah.
like, going to dinner by myself.
Now listen, I want to just put you on the spot here a little bit.
Yeah,
Bethany's got, this a couple of fun podcasts that she does, and on her Rewives, maybe like a month or two ago, she had on, like, she was looking for like this like superstar celebrity set, like dream housewife cast that she would make.
yes,
You remember
yes,
this one?
yes, yes. That was so cool. That was a great podcast episode.
And let's see, who did she want? Who did she have in mind?
She had Teresa. I love it
Yep,
when she calls Teresa Giudice.
you did, yeah.
Uh, I think Nene was one of them.
Yep.
Is
But then
it
I think,
Vicky?
didn't she want like Madonna?
Yeah,
Didn't
she
she?
wanted, yeah. who would we have? So I think that she's right with Teresa and Nene. I would want
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, I would. I'd Lisa. I think she wanted Lisa Vanderpump. I'd really like to see her back.
Yes.
No, I think Lisa doesn't play well with others, so I'd like to see her with some
I thought
sophisticated
Bethenny.
ladies. Yeah, Bethany for sure, for sure. Anyway, I think we had talked about this at some point. You had suggested Pam Anderson. That was, I'd love to see that.
Well, I would too. I would love to see how everybody reacts to I only would want Pam Anderson if Bethany was there because I would want to see Bethany just tweak out because I feel like Pam Anderson is Dollar Tree Sonia Morgan. And so Sonia makes Bethany shithouse crazy during certain seasons.
Uh-huh,
So I
uh-huh.
think that Pam would do the same thing, only it would just be amped up. So I would love to watch that. I would really.
Well, if Pam Anderson's there, then her friend Courtney Love has to join as well.
I hate Courtney
That,
Love, but I have a feeling that Bethany will too.
yeah,
Courtney Love, by the way, is Dollar Tree. Dorinda.
Dorinda. I'd like to see Dorinda sober and back.
Yeah, I don't know if she'd be fun, but we'd have to see. It might be fun to watch her try and stay sober. That might be a
Yeah,
good
I
time.
think so. Yeah.
Well, this was so much fun, Michelle, for our first episode ever.
Yes, it was
This was
fun.
amazing. This is
Yeah.
amazing. We hope everyone enjoyed themselves as much as we did. Thank you guys so much for joining us as we begin to troll those sometimes shallow but always hysterical waters of Bravo Celebrity books. So join us next time when we will discussing one of the greatest works of literature of all time, Bad Mormon by Heather Gay. It is a Real Housewives of Salt Lake City extravaganza. We'll be recapping, we'll be talking about Heather. You guys grab your books and join us next time. We'll see you then. Thanks so much.
Thanks. Bye.